Hi guys, welcome to Sosin IAS Academy. This is Hima Hegde presenting before you
The current and contemporary affairs in anthropology.
to begin with, we have AI and anthropology. Artificial intelligence is a field of computer science and engineering focused on developing systems that can perform tasks typically require human intelligence such as visual perception, speech recognition, decision making and language understanding. To be clear, when using the term AI, one is not referring to the artificial general intelligence, typically used to describe a type of AI capable of performing an intellectual task as a human would. Now, there is machine learning, which is a subset of AI that involves training computer programs or systems to learn from data without being explicitly programmed. Machine learning algorithms can make predictions or decisions based on data, such as image classification, natural language processing, and anomaly detection. Then we have the deep learning and neural networks. These are machine learning algorithms modeled after the human brain's structure and function. Neural network consists of layers and interconnected nodes called artificial neurons that process and transmit information. Then there's natural language processing, natural language understanding, natural language generation, etc. Let us now look into the common examples of AI in anthropology. So, there's research and writing. We all spend much of our time doing secondary research and writing, or speaking for the researchers, they do. And increasingly, AI is typically involved in that process. When conducting secondary research on academic websites or in Google searches, recommender systems based on machine learning are increasingly behind the content suggestions. When writing, the sentences are often auto completed in products like Google for education/business and Office 365. This may seem minor in the big picture, but it is AI and we're all using it already. Then we have the transcription services. If one has tried any automated transcription services like Otter, Rev, or Temi, one has used AI, and in particular, the Bode family of natural language processing. Then it is also used in editing and multimedia, in geographical information system. While some readers may think that the other examples lean towards cultural anthropology, AI will touch all the branches. If one works as an archaeologist, one is likely one has likely used the GIS, Geographic Information System. These systems incorporate already incorporate deep learning and computer vision to provide more accurate and sophisticated maps. Then there is language studies and preservation. Similarly, linguistic anthropologists have a lot to discuss. LLM, that is, large language models, are in the early stages but improving exponentially over the past 18 months. For example, Meta recently announced NLLB, that is, No Language Left Behind, which can translate across 200 languages, even with languages such as Kamba and Lao, which were not previously supported by the existing translation tools. Indigenous computer scientists such as Running Wolf are even starting to study the use of language models to make language learning more accessible, immersive, and engaging. Imagine the potential for linguistic anthropologists and computer scientists to work together in this field, or for cultural anthropologists to be engaged in creating a truly ethnographic algorithm. The potential abounds. Moving on, we understand the anthropology of well being. Well being refers to the goodness of a person's life or of some aspect of it, like health, happiness, relationships, or spirituality. Unlike virtue or status, well being refers only to prudential value, to how well things are going for the person being judged. This goodness can be judged objectively through some commonly agreed criteria. Someone who has a so called good life doesn't necessarily enjoy it. Well being can be usefully seen as having three kinds of meaning: a hedonic sense of enjoyment, a subjective evaluative sense of life satisfaction, that is, in relation to some personally salient criteria and aspirations, and an objective evaluative sense of goodness according to some agreed normative criteria. The being part is interestingly complex too. It doesn't necessarily refer to an individual human body and psyche in the here and now. The ancient Greek term for well being is, or which means having a good spirit, and the South Asian concept of karma, that is, the cumulative effects of action on well being over several lifetimes, remind us that the person whose well being is assessed may have porous boundaries and be disrupted or distributed through other people, other species, and other lives. Well being is individually and culturally variable in significant and interesting ways. The salient contents of well being vary: health, relationships, activities, capabilities, spiritual encounters, and so on. And so do people's views on how to achieve it. The values underpinning well vary, as do the existential concepts of being and the ontological concepts of self. Abstract concepts of well being may or may not feature in moral disclosure. The wellness emphasized may be of individuals or collectivities. This worldly or otherworldly, bodily or mental, human or spiritual, the respective importance of inner feelings and outward displays varies, and such a distinction may or may not be made. Enhancement of well being may or may not be seen as a valid personal pursuit or as the collectively valued criterion for judging the goodness or fairness of institutions and policies. Anthropological literature, whose title announced interest in well being, health, mental health, experience, and subjectivity, need to be encouraged. Anthropologies of morality, social inequality, social development, therapy, and post trauma rehabilitation, all of them need to focus implicitly or explicitly on the themes of well being. Lastly, we have parenting and anthropology. Parenting or child rearing promotes and supports the physical, emotional, social, spiritual, and intellectual development of a child from infancy to adulthood. Parenting refers to the intricacies of raising a child and not exclusively for a biological relationship. The most common caretakers in parenting are the biological parents of the child in question. However, a surrogate parent may be an older sibling, a step parent, a grandparent, a legal guardian, aunt, uncle, other family members, or a family friend. Governments and society may also have a role in child rearing or upbringing. In many cases, orphaned or abandoned children receive parental care from non parent or non blood relations. Others may be adopted, raised in foster care, or placed in an orphanage. Parenting skills vary, and a parent or surrogate with good parenting skills may be referred to as a good parent. Parenting styles vary by historical period, race, ethnicity, social class, preference, and a few other social features. Additionally, research supports that parental history, both in terms of attachment of varying quality and parental psychopathology, particularly in the weak adverse experience, can strongly influence parental sensitivity and the child outcomes. Speaking of the styles, a parenting style is indicative of the overall emotional climate in the home. These parenting styles, like authoritative, authoritarian, or permissive, will later be expanded to include other styles. In particular, authoritative parenting is positively related to mental health and satisfaction with life, and authoritarian parenting is negatively related to these variables. With authoritarian and permissive parenting on opposite side of the spectrum, most conventional modern models of parenting fall somewhere in between. Now, if we were to speak of uninvolved parenting, an uninvolved or neglectful parenting style is when parents are often emotionally or physically absent. They have little to no expectation from child and regularly have no expectations or availability. In case of intrusive parenting, it is when parents use parental control and inhibition of adolescents' thoughts, feelings, and emotional expression through the use of love withdrawal, guilt induction, and manipulative tactics for protecting them from the possible pitfalls without knowing it can disturb the adolescent's development and growth. In case of other kinds of parenting, we have the unconditional parenting and trustful parenting. Now, speaking of childbearing and happiness, data from the British Household Panel Survey and the German Socio-Economic Panel suggests that having up to two children increases happiness in the years around the birth and mostly only for those who have a postponed childbearing. However, having a third child is not shown to increase happiness. However, that is just one source of data. Now, speaking of other factors, there would be things talking about the reproductive health, family planning, where the decision making process surrounding whether to become parents or not and when would the right time be will also be important.